So we now know what was feared to be the case of France and Britain and Canada and Australia saying that they are going to recognize a Palestinian state. People said, well, this is going to reward Hamas, reward terrorism. And we now have proof. The Secretary of State for America, Marco Rubio, has said that he was working on a deal with Hamas. They were being brought to their knees by Israel. And it would have been maybe some kind of hostage deal. It would have been some kind of negotiation for their surrender, perhaps. Who knows? And by the way, I'm not here to talk about the rights and wrongs of what would have been agreed. As you know, I've spoken before about my, I think anything that allows you to bargain with a terrorist organization or let them gain something from their position is, I think, a very dangerous game, negotiating with terrorists. But the point is that Hamas, Marco Rubio is saying now, saw that these Western leaders were saying, well, we're going to recognize the state of Palestine in September at the UN, especially if the war continues. That's what Britain said. So obviously they're incentivized to continue fighting, because Keir Starmer, for example, the Prime Minister of the UK, said, unless Israel surrenders now, not surrenders, but ceasefires now, then we're going to do that. So you've just incentivized Hamas to keep fighting, and the Hamas leaders themselves said this, but now Marco Rubio is saying this as well. Have a watch.
Have you noticed that the talks with Hamas fell apart on the day Macron made the unilateral decision that he's going to recognize a Palestinian state? And then you have other people come forward, other countries say, well, if there's not a ceasefire by September, we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Well, if I'm Hamas, I basically conclude, let's not do a ceasefire.
Right.
Because we can be rewarded and we can claim it as a victory. So those messages, while largely symbolic in their minds, actually have made it harder to get peace and harder to achieve a deal with Hamas. They feel emboldened.
I mean, it's so obvious that it's remarkable just how idiotic some of these Western leaders are. I mean, there's also a deeper idiocy in the fact that they can't see that the entire Palestinian state cause is only about destroying another state. It's not about gaining their own statehood and self-determination. But that's, of course, part of a deeper issue. Keir Starmer was actually called out by the ambassador, Mike Huckabee. Huckabee called him out. He put out a statement talking about, when Israel said we're actually now going to go in and do a full-scale takeover of Gaza to destroy Hamas. And Starmer said, this is wrong. We don't accept this. We want, good faith negotiations. Good faith. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't know who he thinks Israel's dealing with. But he says the Israeli government's decision to further escalate its offensive is wrong. And we urge it to reconsider. It will do nothing to bring an end to this conflict. Really? Why would destroying Hamas do nothing to bring an end to this conflict? I think it will do a lot to bring an end to this conflict, actually, Mr. Starmer. It will only bring more bloodshed. No, Keir Starmer, what you did brought more bloodshed. By you saying we're going to recognize Palestine unless Israel stops, you incentivized Hamas to keep their hostages, to continue the war. You have blood on your hands, actually, Prime Minister. And I think it's pretty unforgivable, actually. But Ambassador Mike Huckabee is a great friend of Israel. He's the American ambassador to Israel. He retweeted Keir Starmer and commented to him. And he said, so Israel is expected to surrender to Hamas and feed them, even though Israeli hostages are being starved. And let's also add, Hamas pose a terrible threat, a genocidal threat to Israel. Did the UK surrender to Nazis and drop food to them? Have you ever heard of Dresden, Prime Minister Starmer? That wasn't food you dropped. If you'd been Prime Minister then, the UK would be speaking German. This is pretty bold stuff from, two very close allies. And look, what I can say is it's good to see there are some people that have moral clarity here in a world that is just prepared to indulge in the lies. And the question that I have is this. Is the actions of some of these Western leaders, because they genuinely believe they're saying the right and moral thing and, their country would do the same and all that? Or is it just entirely cynical? Do they know they're indulging in lies about the Palestinian cause? And is it entirely just because they have their own demographic electoral pressures? Progressives and the Muslim community. Netanyahu said a lot of leaders call him and say, look, we know this, but we have an issue in our own country. And you know what he said? He said this in a press conference just yesterday. He said, I say to them, that is your problem, not mine. And he is absolutely right about that. It is their problem, and it is not Israel's. But I do wonder, and I'd love you to share your thoughts on this in the comments, and I'll try and reply to them. Do you think these Western leaders, bar America for now, you know, who knows what happens after Trump, do you think they are motivated because they think it's right, or is it cynical? Or maybe it's somewhere in the middle. Let me know your thoughts. Before we finish, I just want to share with you something really important. We are told that Israel's actions are the cause of the Israeli-Arab conflict, but we've just released a groundbreaking documentary proving that Arab Islamic Jew hatred far predates Israel's re-establishment. This is a critical fact that everyone needs to learn about. Have a watch of our trailer for our new JTV Plus documentary entitled Arab Antisemitism Before Israel's Re-establishment. Picture yourself, it's 1834 and you're a Jew living in Tzfat, which is a northern city in Israel, then under the Ottoman Empire. Your family is part of this ancient city's spiritual heart for generations. You study Torah, you trade in the market, and live quietly among your Arab neighbours. But one day, a mob storms your street, shouting, "Kill the Jews!" Your home is looted, your synagogue burned, your loved ones beaten. This isn't about Israel. Israel won't exist for 114 years. This isn't about settlements, the IDF, or the 1948 displacements. This is raw, violent hatred aimed at you for being a Jew. And it's not just in Palestine, it's part of a centuries-old story of anti-Semitism woven into Arab and Islamic history, from the dawn of Islam to the streets of Hebron. The claim that this conflict began with Israel's creation, the Nakba, or modern policies, is a farce, a distortion that collapses under history's magnifying glass. Welcome to JTV Plus. I'm Ollie Annisfeld, and today we're uncovering a history too often buried, the relentless anti-Semitism among Arabs in Palestine before 1948, rooted in a broader Arab and Muslim hostility that began with Islam's inception in the 7th century. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.